You want to keep warm when you're feeling chilled, but you don't want to raise your heating bill. Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves. The Snuggie keeps you totally warm and gives you the freedom to use your hands.
Unless you count killing vampires as curing. In that case, you've cured tons, right?
Tons is an understatement. You have to leave, Tom.
Oh, I didn't think it was that bad.
You have to leave now! He's here. It's the worst of them all. The Vampire King.
There has been a ton of cartoon specials, from the Christmas and Halloween to Thanksgiving specials that apparently that's only everyone remembers. If you ask someone to remember an episode from a cartoon, they'll most likely give you some sort of holiday special. That's how popular these are. I mean, it's for good reasons too. These specials typically get the most creative love, because they can tell stories they otherwise wouldn't be able to and branch out and create something special. You get it? Like special? Cartoon special? People attach themselves to these cartoons because they really do get so much love and attention. Or there's some movie specials, and to me, these are the worst. I can't stand cartoon movie specials because they are always hot trash. All they do is make one episode twice as long and make it more drama. These are typically trash and are just from corporate telling the creatives to just make a season finale that feels dramatic, and they just feel soulless. They really have actually no impact, and they feel like they just have nothing. They give no substance and actually no story. I'm very passionate about this because cartoons have zero actual storytelling abilities besides one, and I'm going to get into that. The only episodes that ever actually get some sort of storyline or some sort of storytelling ability are the holiday ones. My favorite special is the SpongeBob Christmas. Or is it, wait, A SpongeBob Christmas. It's done in stop motion and tries to cover the most festive aspects of Christmas. You can see how much creative ability the writers and animators got while making this episode. From the way they treated the animation of the characters, the actual story they wrote, to the actual behind the scenes they made to show how much passion they put behind this special. And it made a difference. Making the writers and animators happy, letting them do things they love, makes the end product feel more complete and full. So, what is the most underrated special? Well, it's a no surprise, it's Adventure Time. Marceline's 8-part series, Stakes, is a masterpiece in writing. Its visual storytelling and character development is unmatched from what I've seen in other cartoons. I love Regular Show. It is my personal favorite cartoon of all time, but I will admit, Adventure Time is a way better show. It is a way better show. Going back and rewatching every season of Adventure Time and coming across this 8-part series actually left an impact on me. It's a journey of Marceline trying to find her purpose in a world who hates her. She's traumatized by her past and doesn't want to relive the memories that made her the vampire in the first place. We get to see her grow and learn to accept what she needs to do to keep everyone safe. So, let's follow her story. Marceline struggles to grab her umbrella that she dropped. She's hiding under a tree in the shadow. She keeps trying to grab the umbrella, but it burns her skin. She puts sunscreen on, but as she does, the umbrella blows away. Later that day, Marceline busts through Bonnie's door. She asks her for a favor, to carry out the procedure they've been talking about, to make her no longer a vampire. Marceline explains that bad things happened to her when she was a child, and when she became a vampire, she was just a messed up kid. She says that even after thousands of years, she still feels like she's messed up and empty inside, and that she would rather become mortal and grow up. Personally, I think this is a great character development. We've seen from like the beginning of season 1 where she's just this evil vampire who wants to sabotage Finn and Jake. But now she's growing up and realizing that that's not the way she wants to live her life, and she finally wants to grow up. Of course, Bubblegum is like, that's the correct choice to no longer be a vampire. But as we know, Bubblegum has a high ego of herself and thinks her decisions are the only correct decisions. They go through the procedure and take out all of her vampire DNA or whatever they take out of her, and she gets rest. As she's sleeping, though, in the middle of the night, she has a nightmare dream where she is being chased down by this monster and also sucking the blood out of cows. Then we see a village as they wake up to see all of their cattle have had their blood sucking out. They obviously blame vampires for this and seek Finn and Jake's help. They first go to Marceline because she is the only vampire in Ooh who would do this. Or, I think, honestly, the only vampire in Ooh. Jake is convinced that it is Marceline, but Finn, the kind-hearted human he is, wants to do a proper investigation. As they're talking to Marceline, though, these villagers come up and eavesdrop on the cabin. They go back and tell the rest of the village that Finn and Jake are helping a vampire. Bum, bum, bum. Later that night, Marceline, Finn, and Jake are out hunting any beast that could have possibly drained all of the villagers' cattle. They spot the creature and start chasing after it. They find that other creatures have had all their blood sucking out too. Jesus, I just stuttered so bad. Finn then chases the creature out of the cave. He runs back to the field only to find Marceline is missing. Where's Marceline at? Well, the villagers tied her up to a windmill so that when the sun comes up in the morning, she would burn to a crisp. Finn tries to run and save Marceline before the sun can get her, but it's too late. And that is where the episode ends. I think this is a great way to end the episode. You get to deal with some adult topics as death, and you see the characters lose. You get to see them lose. Marceline is at her ends, and Finn can't save her. His whole mission is to be a hero and save people, and he loses. This shows just how well the writing is in this episode. Part 2, Everything Stays. God. I keep switching locations. It's almost like I can't seem to sit down and film for more than 10 seconds. This episode starts out with Marceline still being tied up and asking Finn to burn all of her diaries. Then the sun finally hits her and we cut back to memories of Marceline's past. The first flashback is a memory of her as a younger girl living with her mother in their trailer. Her mom recounts a story of how she met her father. Marceline is explaining that her dreams are weird, but her mom tells her that something weird might just be something familiar viewed from a different angle. She then comforts her and they start singing together. The second flashback is set in wintertime in post-Mushroom War ruins. Marceline is now a little bit older and is helping Simon pack his luggage. She overhears him in a different building recording a VHS tape. As we know, these are the VHS tapes from the past episodes where they go over and through them, recounting Simon's past and how his memories are completely wiped and he's like a psychotic crackhead that roams the street of Save-A-Lot. As we know, the relationship between the Crown and Simon makes him lose more and more of himself the longer he wears it. And these VHS tapes are him recording his path along the journey of him going through insanity. She begs Simon not to leave, but he says in order to protect her, he must leave. In the third flashback, Marceline is now holding her axe bass guitar and runs through the ruins of another city, trying to catch this laughing vampire. She tracks him down in a broken down blood donation truck. After she stakes the vampire, she sucks up his soul and absorbs his ability to float. She then scratches a tally mark on her guitar, showing that she killed a vampire. She's hunting for prey and then tries to catch whatever she's chasing after, which looks like to be a bunny, and then she sees bunny ears, and then she lassos those bunny ears that ends up being a human girl. Marceline then apologizes and carefully takes the rope off the frightened girl's head and tries to act like nothing even happened. The girl becomes frightened and runs back to her tribe, which consists of humans wearing animal hats, and the little girl reports Marceline as a vampire. Marceline tries to tell everyone that she's not a vampire, and obviously it doesn't work to begin with. The entire tribe then runs away as she's trying to prove that she's not a vampire. In a later memory, the tribe is seen gathered around a bonfire. The tribe's leader remarks that it's their duty to preserve human music. They start singing a song, but then Marceline starts to strum her axe bass and starts singing her own version of the song. The little girl with bunny ears then goes over to Marceline and tries to be friendly with her and asks to listen. Then the whole tribe gathers around her, with the leader agreeing that her rendition is better. Drink break. We then find out why humans wear animal hats. And it's for, I don't know, I guess a cool reason. They wear it to protect them from vampires so they don't get bitten, because the vampires want humans. Because we find this out because the little girl tells Marceline that she should wear animal hats for her own protection to avoid getting bitten in the neck. We then see the tribe trying to renovate a boat. They then say they're trying to avoid a threat. Marceline assumes that they're vampires, but the humans say that there is something in the atmosphere. Their conversation is then cut off by a group of vampires that shows up. Marceline then kills each vampire one by one and sucking each of their powers up. Marceline then senses the Vampire King approaching from the distance and tells the tribe that they need to leave right away. In present day now, the sun finally rises, and to her surprise, Marceline is left unharmed. The sunlight just literally evaporates the fang bite marks on her neck. Marceline is no longer a vampire. A vampire! We then cut to Jake, who is just now waking up from his little nap in the cave, and sees the gang of vampires standing there and plotting. And that is where the episode ends. Overall, I think this was a good episode explaining Marceline's past and explaining how everything works in the vampires and why Finn is wearing the hat he's wearing. You really do just get like little hints and bits of things that you just kind of piece together yourself, which is kind of crazy for a kid's show because it's a kid's show. These kids are not going to piece little things from episodes like 5 years ago to now and piece those little things together. But for people like me and lore connoisseurs, you get these like little bits of information along the like 8 years of the show to piece a whole storyline together, and that just makes it so much grounded and feel so deserving in the end. Another day of doing this. Part 3. We continue from the final scene of the last episode where the vampires are now reborn and alive again. They're all reminded that Marceline staked them centuries ago, but the vampires really don't care about how they died. They're just eager to start eating again. The vampires express how they want to rebuild their old hive and their old ways of life, but the Vampire King isn't about that and doesn't want to redo things. He wants to adapt to his new situations. The Vampire King states that this is a new era, and old-fashioned ideas have no place in it. All the vampires split off and do their own thing, trying to rebuild their own new army, using their old ideas and mindsets. Jake, who had been hiding under a leaf the entire time, hurries and rushes away. Marceline and Finn are walking through a field. Marceline is expressing how much she enjoys being immortal and enjoying food and different things that she hasn't been able to experience for the past few centuries. Jake then runs up to them, asking Marceline if she knows about the vampires. But there's been new reports of vampire activity happening in the same area as her being cured. She tries to fly back to Bonnie's cabin, but realizes that all the powers she used to have are gone. Jake then goes to Peppermint Butler and tries to get a tries to get the drawing done of the vampire he saw by Peppermint Butler. He is not getting it right at all. Marceline then has a flashback about the Vampire King. In the flashback, Marceline and the Vampire King are facing off on the human's boat. The Vampire King tells Marceline that the powers she has obtained from staking vampire souls are making her crazy, and that she has yet to pay the price for them. The Vampire King then asks Marceline if she's truly willing to wipe out the entirety of the vampire species by staking him. The two then lunge towards each other. He says there is only one way to save his people, and as Marceline stakes him, he then bites Marceline, giving her her vampire powers. Marceline then says they urgently need to prepare against the new vampires. Peppermint Butler brings out an entire stash of hunting equipment, but Marceline tries to tell them that they can't help, that she needs to do this on her own. So Marceline leaves Finn, Jake, Peppermint Butler, and Bonnie all by themselves, as she goes on to try to kill all these vampires by herself. She then finds the Fool's Chamber, which has the Fool and the Vampire King inside. She then tells them that things are different in the New World, with humans long gone, and the Vampire King replies to that he too has changed, as he has resolved only to eating animals, just like everyone else. Despite this, Marceline calls them monsters. She then stakes the Fool and sucks his soul, regaining the power of flight. The Vampire King then informs Marceline that there is a vampire heading towards the Ice Kingdom, coming for the Ice King. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. She then rushes to go try to save the Ice King. I think it was a fine episode. I just think it could have explained more of the backstory of the Vampire King and who he was, but it establishes who these vampires are and what they want to do. It sets them up as villains and as the Vampire King truly wants to change, but Marceline is too stuck in the past to actually try to change with him. I know, another new shirt, but I promise you, it is the same day. I promise. Okay, so this episode is... Actually, let me look. Let me see what this episode is. This episode is The Empress Eyes, Part 4. The episode begins with Ice King dreaming about Lemongrab. The Empress appears at the end of Ice King's bed and is surprised that he doesn't remember her. She then mind controls him and becomes obedient, kind of like a Reddit mod. She wants blood, and Ice King just hands her a penguin, and she's like, I want human. And Ice King's like, well, the only human left is Finn. And she commands the Ice King to go get Finn so she can go feast on him. She then starts to read Ice King's diary. She then has Ice King be her personal slave and start doing ridiculous things that satisfy her. Then we see Jake guarding Bubblegum's cabin, where she is trying to invent a machine that can freeze vampires. Finn has a whole bunch of stakes wrapped around him and accidentally stabs Bubblegum. While all this is happening, the Ice King is peeping on all of them and stalking them. Then we cut back to the Empress reading, where Marceline sneaks up behind her and is about to stake her, when the Ice King is literally carrying Finn and goes, whoa, what are you girls doing? Calm down, there's enough of me for the rest of you. The Empress is annoyed and orders Ice King to capture Marceline and Finn. As the Ice King searches for the two, Marceline mentions that the reason she hunted vampires was because of him. He's surprised, and then Marceline starts to sing a song. She recalls seeing a bearded man about to be attacked by a vampire, and she goes and stakes it. And the family freaks out and runs away, but she thinks of it as protecting Simon. The Ice King begins to cry, and Marceline and Finn step out from their hiding. Ice King then shackles Finn and Marceline. Then the Empress steps out and tries to get the Ice King to kill them both. Then the Ice King and Empress start arguing back and forth. This gives time for Finn and Marceline to escape and use the Ice King's powers to imprison the Empress in ice. She then tries to hypnotize the Ice King even further, but he was never even hypnotized in the first place. He was just so down bad for her that he would do anything in the first place. He wasn't even hypnotized. The Empress then reveals that the Ice King used to serve her before, while he was still partially human. Enraged, Marceline then attacks the Empress, but she is overtaken. Bubblegum then appears and stuns the Empress with the machine she was working on earlier. Then Marceline stakes her and sucks her soul. Then Marceline agrees to hunt the rest of the vampires with her friends. And I forgot to mention in the last episode, one of the coolest things to ever end or be in an episode is the tally mark slashes that they do at the end. That is the coolest part. It is dope. This episode's honestly pretty good. It shows Marceline being able to actually open up and be able to get help. She's not alone anymore. She's not alone in this broken world. She has people that want to be with her and help her. And it kind of actually shows through in this episode. The whole gang is searching the woods for a vampire named the Moon. They're following a trail of green pearls that she left behind. Jake thinks that the pearls are poisonous or harmful to them, but Marceline tries to assure them that they're harmless, and that the Moon is the easiest one to take out. Jake starts to get worried and suggests that they start to get shelter before it gets dark. They continue into the woods using Bonnie's vampire detecting device. Then, out of nowhere, Crunchy comes out of the woods with the King of Ooh right behind him. The king is hunting Crunchy, as he believes this is the most regal of all other activities. Then the king hears a large roar from a large bush, shrub-looking thing, and shoots a cotton swab arrow towards it. He thinks this is Crunchy. The creature hiding in the shrub is actually the Hierophant morphed into wild boar, then proceeds to chase after the king and Crunchy. They then cowardly climb into a tree. She then demands to know where Marceline's location is, so obviously the king and Crunchy just give it right to her. Back at the little cabin thing, Peppermint Butler is just cooking up some food and he hears some scratches at the door. It's actually the Hierophant, and it asks permission to enter the door, or the cabin, whatever. And Peppermint Butler's like, "You're a vampire, aren't you? You need permission to enter." And he starts taunting it and taunting it and taunting it. Then it notices footprints that lead away from the cabin and starts to follow it. Then Peppermint Butler is like, "Oh, no, no, no! You can come in! You can come in!" He then calls Princess Bubblegum, warning them that the vampire is coming. Then a moaning is heard from the shrub behind Finn. It ends up being a lumpy space princess covered in leaves, who begins to wake up from a long nap. The Hierophant in Puma form then eventually finds Finn, tied by his left foot to a stake. All of them are hiding and making this into a trap. Bonnie's behind a tree, Jake is a tree, and Marceline is hiding on top of a tree, with Lumpy Space Princess who is covered with stakes and tied to a branch, making her a makeshift vampire trap. The Hierophant approaches Finn's neck, ready to take a bite. Marceline propels LSP forward into the vampire, but he dodges the attack by turning himself into a rat. He then dodges a giant blast from Bubblegum, and then turns into a bat trying to catch up to Marceline. He then offers her a proposition, but Marceline punches him in the face and turns invisible. Then LSP falls from the tree, falling on top of Bonnie. Jake then shrinks down and gets into Bubblegum's backpack, and then reads a text from Peppermint Butler, which says that the vampire cannot enter without permission. He then turns into a house, bringing everyone inside besides the vampire. The vampire tries to enter, but they will not let him in. The Hierophant then tries to talk to Marceline on a one-to-one level, telling her that she will never defeat the Vampire King in the condition she's in now. And the only reason that she defeated him in the first place is because he allowed her to. Then, out of nowhere, a scared Crunchy comes out of the woods and stakes the vampire. This allows Marceline to suck up his powers and take the morphing power thing, whatever. You then notice a growing green poisonous scar on Marceline's left arm, and they all begin to worry. And this pretty much ends this episode. Good episode, but let's get to the next one. Yes, I just woke up, but let's get to it. Part 6, Take Her Back. It starts off with a dreamlike sequence where she is dreaming about Simon and his girlfriend cooking together and like pulling a pie out, where Finn and Jake start burping over her to try to wake her up, which is not working. But then she does wake up from Bonnie holding her. Bonnie says there is no cure-alls and asks them if they know what hubris is, and she describes it as excessive arrogance. Peppermint Butler says he has a poison lab back at the castle, and of course that's when Bubblegum says we have to hurry back there now. Bubblegum then tells Finn and Jake to go look out for the moon, and she says go stake them out and bring him back to the castle. So obviously that's going to lead to something later in the episode that doesn't go so well. They then see the orbs on the ground again and start to follow them back to this little hut thing. They're exploring it thinking that it's hers, but they open up a little container that looks like a vase and see that she is sleeping inside. They then try to stake the vampire and she immediately heals back. Then take her outside to see if the sun will burn her, and she obviously heals. Then they just start staking her over and over and over again for an extended period of time. Princess Bubblegum then breaks back into her castle and busts right through the King of Ooh. Then we cut back to Finn and Jake, who is still stabbing the vampire, and it's been like hours. I just think it's funny that they were stabbing this person for hours, and this is like a kid's cartoon. They're just like, bah, 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 bah. They then decide to bring her back to the castle instead of just staking her. The moon then comes out after it starts getting dark outside, and the vampire then starts to wake up. And then, like, the funniest sequence happens where Jake and Finn start running away, and this vampire is like motionless, floating and like coming right at them, not blinking, moving, nothing. Then it like immediately follows up to Finn and Jake and tries to talk, or Finn tries to talk to it, and he's like, "Listen, we're setting you up to a trap. Leave us alone." And the vampire's like, and they just book it out of there. Apartment Butler then goes back to the poison control place and tries to cure Marceline with rocks. Yeah, he's a crystal person. I bet he knows all the star signs as well. Finn and Jake then bring the vampire back to the castle where it like demobilizes every single person it gets in contact with. And they cannot take this person out whatsoever. Then we come back to Marceline, who's dreaming about Princess Bubblegum and them together in the cabin when they're older. I don't know what this is insinuating, but I think that they're in love. And then we come back, and that vampire's like destroying everyone, and then out of nowhere, Pittman Butler just takes his giant stake right through the vampire, and Marceline sucks the soul back up, doing another tally mark, and getting the powers to heal herself back up. I think it was a pretty cool episode, especially with the monster, where it was more demon-like than just vampire. It actually was kind of horrified, where anyone that saw it or did anything would just get wrecked and demobilized. Alright, finally part 7. Let's get this done with. I've been recording for so long. I've literally went through like 10 shirts. Let's keep going. Alright, the episode starts out with Peppermint Butler just like fantasizing over the Vampire King and writing in his diary. And then Jake knocks on the door, and Peppermint Butler's like wanting to know everything that's going on with Marceline and everything else. And Jake says that Marceline is doing great, and she has all her powers back, and they're doing fine. Peppermint Butler then is just like, "Can you get the Vampire King to sign my book?" He's like, and then Jake's like, it's a little weird. And then we cut over to Finn, who is sharpening a stake while Marceline and Princess Bubblegum are doing jumping jacks. Then we see Marceline's stomach start growling because this is the first time she's ever felt like the hunger for food. Then we see Marceline and Jake and everyone just start devouring food. And then we see Princess Bubblegum, who is just like, we need to come up with a plan. Like, I don't even know how to find him. And then out of nowhere, this like golden, bright sunshine of whatever comes down. And then it's the Vampire King being like, "I come to you.
Just want to talk." Oh, really? Why don't you step inside?
They then all try to attack the Vampire King, but are very much outpowered by him. He literally throws Jake across the universe, and then stops Marceline and destroys the stake she had. Finn tries to throw like a tree, and he like just completely misses, and the Vampire King just stands there like, "What did you just do, dude?" He then grabs Finn by the head, and then looks like he's about to just like squish him. And then the Vampire King is just trying to reason with her and says, "I don't want human flesh anymore. I don't want blood." He's trying to change, which is pretty cool to see in a villain. It's an actual villain you can kind of side with. He doesn't want to be like he was in the past. He wants to change. But they won't even give him a shot to. And then I honestly feel bad for the Vampire King. He's really trying to change. And the moment he's like, "Take the vampire out of me," he like completely like lets go of his guard, and then Marceline just tries to attack him and then tries to stab him, but Finn's like, "No, don't do it." And he's like, "He's a ruthless vampire. I gotta kill him no matter what." And then he takes her up to the sky and is like, "Marceline, please give me a chance. These are the old rules, the old ways. I am different now." As of right now, Marceline won't change. He's saying, "You don't know the future. The past keeps repeating itself. Let destiny change." He's like, "No, it's a black hole of knowledge where I don't have control over it." So she won't change her views on anything. Marceline then agrees to allow the Vampire King to take all of his vampire stuff out. after he like pleaded for her to just like kill him and kill him and kill him. Then they get back to the cabin where the machine is that sucks the vampire juice out, and Peppermint Butler's like debating in his head if he wants the Vampire King to sign his book. Then he runs down there and it's too late. She like slams the machine. It's like, nope, too late. They then suck all the vampire juice out of him and it leaves him to be like a regular lion. And then we cut to later where Peppermint Butler accidentally spills something and knocks that vampire juice all over the floor and it like explodes like a regular show explosion and makes this like giant cloud of a lion that looks like it's destroying everything. This episode's actually very good. You get to see Marceline just like completely not want to be something else. Like she is trying to learn over time to accept who she is and a different path, but she kind of reverts back to who she was before, where she doesn't give anyone a chance and is just ruthless. And you can see that over time because her powers that she gets from these other vampires make her this way. They make her ruthless. But whenever she got her powers originally taken away, she became a different person. She was normal again, and she could have empathy. But over the time, you just kind of slowly see her become more and more ruthless and more wanting to be that vampire again. Episode 8, final part of this amazing miniseries. Oh, and the episode is The Dark Cloud. The episode starts with the lion destroying Bonnie's cabin, and they're trying to go through it, finding anything they can to like destroy this giant cloud. But the giant cloud vampire thing is sucking up all the people around it and destroying literally everything. This also just goes to show what the vampire thing does to things. It just destroys everything in its path. They try to fight this thing. Everyone in that small town from the beginning, and then everyone's trying to fight it, but it's doing no damage to it. Marceline is sulking because she thinks it's her fault and that trying to change herself ruined everything and it's all her fault. Then Marceline starts singing a song, and then Ice King comes out of nowhere and kind of gives her some helpful advice in a non-direct way, and she kind of sees the other side and starts to help. Then it starts coming over to the like candy castle and everything else, and the King of Ooh is just like not doing anything to try to help. He's just telling everyone else to go fight it, and then out of nowhere, Crunchy, or I think it's Crunchy, just destroys the King of Ooh and takes his spot, and is like, "Save the people!" Then we see a ton of different people trying to fight against the monster, but it doesn't do anything besides Marceline, who then flies in and then Goku's the Vampire King's essence and sucks her heart, like opens up and sucks it in, and then the vampire ghost thing, its last final thing it does is bite Marceline, turning her back into a vampire. She then sits there trying to recover after getting bit, and she's back in her old house and just wants to be alone for a little bit. So, all in all, this is a great miniseries. You get to see her wanting to change, and yet when she does, she finally gets to see other people's point of views and gets to like experience other things and grow and change. Yet she has to fight these vampires again, who then she has to suck their essence in, and she becomes more and more like how she used to be. And then we see her over time just become more and more hateful and more just wanting to be alone, even though she was trying to grow and be different. And then in the end, she's back to how she used to be, isolated and repeating the same cycle over and over again.